Good morning, monsters, and welcome to today's show. It is going to be a great one. We have an amazing guest here with a ton of experience in Bigfooting, all the way going back to almost the very beginning of Bigfooting as we know it. So I want to get right into that as soon as we can. But first, guys, if you have not checked out what we do here at Cryptids Anomalies on the Paranormal Society, I want you to check that out. Where's my video? There it is. Awesome. Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, and the metaphysical? How about Mothman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids? What about UFOs, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomenon? Then you need to check out Cryptids Anomalies and the Paranormal Society. We have all that and more. Watch our series, Caps Road Trip, where we travel across the U.S. in search of these phenomena and bring you not only the history of these locations, events, and encounters, but evidence that we capture along the way. Alongside our team of researchers and investigators, you never know who will be joining in on the investigations. Are you interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan? Check out Finding Heighton, a series documenting the Sasquatch activity on a very special 80-acre property just outside of Menominee that has been a hotspot since 2012. Want even more? Check out our podcasts. Whispers from the Dark is the official podcast of Cryptids Anomalies and the Paranormal Society and brings you interviews with the top names in the field of paranormal to cryptids and more. Hear witnesses' accounts and go in-depth with the CAPS team to hear more about our ongoing research. Are you more into cryptids? Find links to our all cryptid show, Monsters on the Edge, on the Untold Radio Network. If you're into spooky, subscribe now and you won't miss a minute of our brand new series coming soon, Spirits of Macville. Follow along as we uncover the haunted history dating back to 1877 of a very well-known location you may have never guessed would be haunted. Head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button and you won't miss a minute. And if you want to show your support for everything that we do here at Cryptids Anomalies and the Paranormal Society, head on over to our website, wisconsincaps.com. Click on Shop Our Store. There you can find t-shirts, mugs, tote bags, everything that you can slap our logo on. You can wear it and carry it and show your support. If you want to go online and check out everything Cryptids Anomalies and the Paranormal Society, look for Wisconsin Caps at Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, or WI Caps on Instagram. If you want to see our team in person this Saturday, we are doing a paranormal sleepover event at the Oshkosh Grand. It is a haunted opera house, and they have an entire month of Halloween and spooky stuff going on there. And this Saturday, tickets are still available for the Paranormal Sleepover. It is an all-night event starting at 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. Head on over to theoshkoshgrand.org. And guys, we are going to be at CryptidCon in Lexington, Kentucky, coming up in November 18th and 19th. And we are going to be at the Krampus event in Milwaukee coming up on December 3rd. And just announced, guys, next year, June 1st, we are going to be at the Marinette Menominee Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention along with Rich Daniels, Chad Lewis, and our station's very own Doug Hychek. So that is coming up next year, June 1st. All right. And if you want to show your support for all things here at the Untold Radio Network, here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, today my guest, Thom Cantrall, is a fifth generation of the West. After spending 9 years in the U.S. Navy, the majority of which was a missile technician aboard the Polaris submarine, Thom was discharged while living on Washington's Olympic Peninsula. He began college in Port Angeles, Washington, and finished his degree in the logging engineering at the University of Washington in Seattle. During this time, he owned and operated a small logging company on the north and west ends of the peninsula. It was his sighting at this time that fanned the flames of interest that were kindled by the Jerry Crew incident in Northern California in 1958 and eventually led to his current work. Being a mainstay in the Sasquatch community, Thom's findings have shaped current thoughts on Sasquatch, and he has mentored many researchers in the field. He is a prolific writer and popular speaker at many Sasquatch conferences, in addition to having authored 13 books on Sasquatch. He has written many essays which are available for you to read on his website, thomcantrall.com. Thom and his work continue to inspire the community and he continues to attend conferences as many conferences as he is able to attend in person. Stumbled there at the end. It's going so well. All right, guys, and without any further ado, please welcome my guest today, Thom Cantrall. Hi, Thom.
Well, hello
there. How are you this morning?
I feel like I should be saying hi to Doc on the band as I come out.
Awesome. Oh man, like I said, it is such a pleasure to have you here. You are a definite wealth of knowledge, so many years in the field. I titled this 60 plus years of Bigfooting. I mean, I've listened to a bunch of your other interviews and stuff. You have been there pretty much since the original footprint. You said you were 15 when
I was 15 when the Jerry Crew incident happened in Northern California. That was the 25th of August in 1958, and it was a crew of road builders, and they were working out of camp, which means they went home on the weekends and they stayed in camp all week because it was such a long drive to get to work. And the roads they were building, believe it or not, were the roads that Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson were driving when they filmed Patty. It's the very same area, very same creek. The equipment dump for Jerry Crew's crew was the campground where Bob and Roger stayed the time they were in the Bluff Creek area. So the stories run together. But what happened there, Jerry came to work on one Monday morning, came back into camp, and it was, like I said, end of August. So dust was about, probably yay deep on the new road they were cutting, as it tends to do in Northern California. And as they approached their equipment, they found this set of 15-inch footprints, 15, 16-inch footprints came down off the mountain, very steep hill, and down, walked around the cat up to the next equipment and on, and then disappeared down in the canyon. And it actually hit the newspaper a little later on. It took a while, but that's what lit my fire. I read that article, and it's lit a fire in me that at 15 years old still burns as hot, if not hotter today than it did then. But Jerry took a little scorn for that. The second or third time that it happened, he got the idea of making casts of the tracks. And he happened to be in town on a weekend and in early October. And Andrew Genzoli, who was the editor of the Humboldt Times newspaper in Eureka, California, got wind that he was there, got a hold of him and asked him to come in for an interview. And of course, there's lots of pictures around of that interview. But Jerry showed him his footprint casts, and Andrew wrote an article about this. And in that article was the first time the word Bigfoot was used in print. uh, commonly. The wire services picked that article up, and it appeared in my hometown newspaper, which is about 300 miles from where the incident happened. And it, like I said, lit my fire. I got to study. Ivan T. Sanderson, the world's most noted paleontologist. He's written 13 books, I believe it is, on mammals, on mammalia. They were the manuals at the time for mammal study. And he came and investigated, wrote 2 articles, one for True Magazine and one for Argosy Magazine. And you have to remember in 1958, those types of magazines were our internet of the day. I mean, that's where we learned things, and new things came out, and they were both men's magazines, predominantly male audience, and to be politically correct there. But and then on the newspaper article appeared on the 4th of October. On the 6th of October, it was wire serviced. Also on the 6th of October, the owner of the company that Jerry Crew worked for, Wallace Logging and Construction, Inc., who had the contract to build those roads, Ray Wallace, the owner thereof, returned to town. He had in Costa Rica helping them get their logging industry started prior to that. So he was not in the country during the time all this was happening. He gets back and finds his crew in a hullabaloo because here's these tracks. People are having trouble keeping people in camp because here's these creatures obviously walking around their equipment 2 or 3 times a week. And the only people who were not bothered by it were the Indian workers off the local reservations, the Yurok Reservation and the Hoopaw Reservation, that are both very near there. And their attitude was, you mean the white man's finally getting around to this? It didn't quite bother them much. And they just went on to work. But the rest of the crew, he was having real trouble keeping a crew on the job. And of course, you only have so long in Northern California to build a road in the fall before you're out. When it starts raining there, it starts raining. And all that 10 inches of dust that I indicated earlier becomes somehow, by some work of magic, becomes about 15 inches of mud. And believe me, you're not doing anything. You're not moving a machine after it starts raining in that land. If you've ever heard the story of Bob and Roger, and to them the day after the film, when they were trying to get out of that place because the rain started that morning. And if you haven't read it, it's in my book, 21 Days to Destiny, the real story of Bluff Creek. And it chronicles what happened, the problems they almost did not get out with their stock truck and horses and such. They finally did, but it just that land just goes to muck. Anything that's open, it just turns to muck immediately, and it's unreal. The mud will run down the middle of your road cut just like a river of mud, and it's unbelievable if you've never seen it and never been there. So Ray Wallace was particularly concerned because he had a contract to fulfill. He had roads to build, and in order to get paid, those had to be done. And Sasquatch or no Sasquatch, he needed crew in order to build that road. So he got the idea, in addition to the fact that he brought in a hunter with 4 wonderful hounds to try to find this creature. They found tracks. They put the hounds down on the tracks. They went whoop, whoop, whoop into the timber, and that was the last they were ever heard from again. They never came out. So Ray got the idea, well, I'll just make tracks myself. And I wish I had photographs with me to show you the obvious difference between Jerry Crew's cast tracks, which are legitimate tracks, and Ray Wallace's, it looked like carved wood prints. I mean, the toes are square on them. And, but he was able to say, oh, that was just me doing that. I just making a joke with everybody. Well, I'm not quite sure how he made that joke when he was in Costa Rica for 2 months and they were appearing there, but we'll let that go. But that's one of the things that did happen. Fakes were done, hoaxes were done. Ivan Marks was a great one for hoaxes, and there's some modern people as well that have been known to do that. But know one thing: Patterson-Gimlin film is not a hoax. Look at the scientific evidence on that film. Okay, if you know a fellow by the name of Bill Muns, read the Bill Muns report on YouTube. Bill ran the school for costume design for Creature Maker. Okay, in Hollywood, he ran the school. He took the Patterson-Gimlin film and he took it frame by frame, but not only frame by frame, layer by layer emulsion in the frame. And all these cockamamie theories that come around, the massacre theory, a bunch of garbage if you ever heard it, is blamed on, they see a flash in the film, okay? And somebody said, oh, that's a gunshot. They were shooting them. They shot and murdered 9 of them and buried them. Now, I wonder, number one, when everybody in the world has trouble seeing 1, how did they find 9? Okay. Then if you found 9, Bob was the only one that had a rifle. How do you shoot 9 Sasquatch with a rifle that holds 5 cartridges? You think they all stood around and waited while he reloaded? Then there's this little mark on her leg. That's where she was shot. No, that's not where she was shot. That doesn't even occur in the original of the film. In Bill Munn's work, it's not there. It's an artifact introduced by copying copies of copies of copies of copies of copies, 9, 10, 12 layers deep. It's not even there. That flash doesn't exist, and that mark on the leg does not exist. Okay, then we get into the ratios of body parts. Did you know that you are exactly 6.5 times your height is exactly 6.5 times the length of your foot?
I do now. As I told you, I listened to some of your other interviews, and I tested that theory, and it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, does that mean everybody, absolutely everybody that has a 10-inch foot is 65 inches tall exactly? No, but that's the center of the bell curve. And natural variation comes out from that. Within 3 standard deviations, 99% of population will fall. Okay, that's what that means. Okay, now I took that a step further, and I wanted to know, using the same criteria, how to determine weight. So what I did is I built a box, and when I found a track, and I used to find lots of them, I was a forester. I never worked at a company for a forester, but I did do consulting work. And one of the things I did a lot of were bridge site surveys. And that meant I had to hire. Of course, they didn't hire me for the ones next to the road. Their own engineers did that. They hired me for the ones that were a 6-mile hike back into the timber. And so I'd have to take a Saturday and hike in 5, 6, 7 miles and do all my measurements in order to build a road that crosses a stream used by anadromous fish runs. That's fish that go to sea and then come back to spawn, salmon, steelhead, those type of fish. You have to have a permit from the state. In order to get that permit, you have to catalog that stream. Its flow, its banks, what it's made out of, what the banks are made out of, what the bed's made out of, what the flow rate is, everything about it. And then design your bridge to cross it and submit that. And then they'll issue you a permit based on those specs. And that's what I did. Well, I could make as much money on a weekend as I could in a month as for an employee forester. So I had my logging company going, and then I do that. I'd pick up one of those every now and again. But it gave me a great time because I would hike back in and find my crossing, do my measurements, and I learned long since, very early on, you don't hike back out, get home, do your drawing, and find out you've forgotten a measurement and have to hike back in the next day to remeasure that same spot. And that'll ruin your whole weekend for you. And so I got the idea to sit down when I got done with all my measurements and just do a rough drawing just to make sure I had everything before I went out. Well, that's when I started seeing them. You'd sit there working that you're, like I say, you're 6 miles maybe back in old growth timber. There hasn't been a soul there in 500 years. And I mean no one. The Indians never went back in there because there's no game. Okay. The only reason that they were back there is because I was there. They followed me. But then they'd get curious to why I was sitting there doing nothing and start peeking around a tree at me. And all of a sudden, there'd be an eyeball around the side of a tree. And it was really rather fun. They had this little whistle they did. It was just an up-down whistle. And that basically what I finally found out was I'm watching him. He's over here. I got my eye on him. And but I'd find these tracks, especially along stream beds, little step over streams. And those there were a lot of them. I mean, I'd see 1 or 2 or 3 every time in and out. It was like they were leaving them for me just so they'd know I would know they were there. Well, I got the idea to measure these tracks. And I mean, physically, not only length and width and depth, that sort of thing, but I built this box and I could fill it with sandbags and keep track of the weight so that I knew how much weight was in the box until it sunk the same depth as that track that I was next to. And that would give me a pretty good idea of how much it weighed to sink that deep. Well, I did that, and then that working backwards, figured out that they put about 7.5 pounds per square inch on the ground when they walk. When their first foot first hits the ground. You have to remember, they walk with a compliant gait. We pole vault over our knees. We land with a heavy heel strike, and then our foot comes down flat. Theirs don't. Their leg swings out around them, comes down directly in front of them, and sits flat. Then when they step forward, the mid-tarsal breaks, and all their weight goes to the front foot, and it sinks deeper. If you ever have a question on a track, is the heel deeper or is the toes deeper? If the heel's deeper, it's human. If the toes are deeper, it could be Sasquatch. Okay, that's a clue. All right. By doing this, I figured that with that 7.5 pounds per square inch, now all I had to do was figure out the area of the foot, right? Well, I knew the length. That's measurable. The length or width, as far as for square inches on the ground, is 40% of the length. So if you have a 15-inch long footprint, that means statistically it's going to be 6 inches wide. All right, 6 inches times 15, 90 square inches a foot on the ground, times 7.5, 675 pounds. So that 15-inch footprint just told me he was 6.5 times that for height, 97.5 inches, and he weighs 675 pounds. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely impressive. Yeah.
That's what happens when you're an engineer. You play with numbers. I have a cartoon. This engineer sitting by the pool with his calculator and his slide rule, and his wife's telling their son, No, son, it's all right. Daddy really is having fun. Fun. He's an engineer. Uh, but those are the types of things that got me interested and going. That particular happened back in the early 1970s, and during the era of the 70s, I had lots of time to be in the woods between my logging company and between the work the consulting work I was doing. I was in the woods more than I was at home, but to be truthful with you. If I wasn't working, I was hunting or fishing. So, uh, yeah. And so I spent a lot of time. I got to know them very well. But still, until 2010, I had 35 years of unconsolidated facts. I knew a lot about them, but I didn't correlate anything. It was only after then, when I got my teacher, that I started learning what it all meant. I learned what mind speak is. I learned what you call cloaking. It actually is. Okay. And to that event, I want to plug one thing because I just finished watching it this morning. There's a video out done by, pardon me, I'm old. Things flee from my mind. A Touch of Beauty. And it, a Flash of Beauty. That is fantastic if you want to learn about what I'm talking about. First of all, everybody in it's friends. Barb Shoop's in it. Arla, Khalil, and just everybody. All my friends are in it. It was so much fun to watch, but it's so true. And there's a professor from, pardon me, Washington State University, who talks about the science of it, and that there is in fact science behind the paranormal, and very, very, very. I mean, it's only $5 to rent. It is absolutely wonderful to watch, even without the fact that my friends are in it. But I highly, highly recommend that.
Absolutely.
And it deals with the paranormal.
If you guys want to go check that out, it is A Flash of Beauty, Sasquatch and the Paranormal, and it's out now. And Brett, the director of that, will actually be right here on this show November 6th to discuss it. So if you guys want to go check that out, do that. So there you go.
Brett's a great guy too. And they got to meet them out at Forks last year at the conference, and get to see it officially next weekend at Yakima at the conference there. And Jill and Brett will be there, and Toby and the whole gang. So that'll be fun. But that's that's where I came from. And then I started learning in 2010. And the first thing I learned, the first thing I did, Arla and I managed to get ourselves labeled as the Pope and the High Priestess of Wu, which we thought was all right. I'd never been a Pope before, and she'd never been a High Priestess. And if they knew how much fun they afforded us, they'd have never done it. But in that film I just talked about, Arla ends with a very strong point. If I tell you something and you don't believe it, that's all right. I don't care. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because it's what I saw. It's not what you saw. And there is a difference there. Okay? All I ask that you do is don't reject it. Consider it. And throw it away. Then when something else happens, I saw that. Okay? And you don't have to be disagreeable to disagree. Jeff Meldon and I have had a friendship for years now, and we disagree with 60% of what one another says. Okay? But that doesn't mean you have to be mean or vicious or we disagree. So what? You know, I tell him, Jeff, the only thing you need is more experience. I love teasing him. We were at Ocean Shores at the summit one time, and I went up and shook hands with him afterwards. I said, well, Jeff, we maintained our record. We spent all weekend together, disagree with 60% of what one another says, shake hands and go home. Friends, you know. He says, yeah, he says, it's so weird. He says, I'm sitting listening to you. I'm disagreeing with you, but you're so darn articulate. He says, my head is going up and down. I tell him, Jeff, listen to your head, not your heart. You know?
Awesome, guys. We have some questions in the comments section. If you guys have any questions for Thom, put them in there, put them in all caps so we get a good look at them. And if you guys want to support the Untold Radio Network and everything here in the shows, we're going to take a really quick 30-second break here, and we'll be right back.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our shows, knowledgeable hosts, and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
All right, Thom. A guest here would like to know, are you going to be attending any Bigfoot conferences this year or next year? Anything coming up?
Yeah, well, I will be in Yakima this coming weekend, and I will be at the summit, Sasquatch Summit in Ocean Shores, the weekend before Thanksgiving. Okay. And unfortunately, I can't travel very far because I'm 80 years old now. And I just came through a really bad siege. And this is the first appearance I've done since I went to Canada in September, and that was a mistake, as much as I loved the trip and got to see old friends. I got to see my, if you've read any of my books, see Raja say again, the female who I got to watch have twins 8 years ago, and I got to see her and the twins. So it was totally worth it, but I just about didn't survive it. I came down with bronchial pneumonia, and somebody my age with my heart conditions, that's not a good thing. But yes, I get to as many as I can, but they have to be fairly local. I have to be able to drive there and back. I have been to Medellin Falls, which is up in the northeastern corner of Washington. I mean, it's so northeastern. If you stand in the middle of town and throw a rock due north, it lands in Canada. Turn and throw it due east, and it lands in Idaho. Okay, but they have a festival there in June of every year, and it is fantastic. I mean, they draw a lot of people there, great speakers, and I hope to go back to that one again. They do it up right up there. I really enjoy it. And then whatever else I get invited to, I was invited to the Skagit conference this year, but that was right after that Canada trip, and I couldn't make it. Had to cancel on that one. But other than that, just wherever I've invited, and I'm invited, if I can get there, I go. I love these. I get to talk to people. I get to hear their stories. Okay. I know my story, but I want to hear your story. You know, I wrote one book, Sasquatch Face to Face, that has 32 face-to-face encounters in it from across the country. And believe me, there's some awfully good ones. One of them is in that film, A Touch of Beauty. Richard Taylor's story of when he was on Orla's land and what happened there with the gun in his pocket. That's a great story. It absolutely is a wonderful story. How do you argue with a fellow who was a former federal agent? You know, uh, and yeah, police officer. Uh, then another little experience we had. A group of us were down in Georgia. We used to go down there every year for a week-long camp session, and there were 18 of us sitting around a campfire when two of them decided to join us. I look up, and the lady across the campfire from me, her lower lip is quivering, and she's and I look over my head behind me, and there's two of them standing right behind me at the campfire. 18 people witnessed it, and one of those was a Georgia Superior Court judge. So who's going to argue with him? You know, these things happen, but you don't have to believe me. You know, just trust your own instincts, but keep your mind open. One thing I'm going to argue about is they are not monsters. Now, there may be monsters out there, but that is not Sasquatch. That's not their doing. Can you get on the wrong side of them and make them mad? Oh, yeah, you can. You can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I've been told that. You know what I did? I left. A novel idea, wasn't it? I left. Came back later. You know, that's their land. That's their home. I'm in their home. You know, if I'm interrupting something, I'll leave and come back later. That's no big deal. And it shouldn't be for you either. Don't try to trick them. First of all, you know, they see us when we turn off the paved road. Somebody asked me what type of camo I wore. That's camo. You know, I wear a blue shirt and red suspenders. You know, got to keep my pants up. And it's not a thing about camo. They know where I am. Heavens, they follow me. At this stage, they come where I am. That's really kind of a trip. They make sure to come where I am. The young ones especially. And that's, you know, the rock throwing, little bitty pebbles. That's kids. Who gets in more trouble in any species than adolescent males? You know, who? Nobody. And it's the same thing there. A few years ago now, we were camped at a place called Bumping Lake in the Cascade Mountains between Seattle and Yakima, and found a butt cast, actually three of them, but we've cast two of them. There's some very unique and very distinctive differences there between their naked butt cast and a human naked butt cast. How do we know? We got a volunteer. But the first one we cast, the larger one, was each female. I would judge her to be 12, 13 years old, in that range. Okay. You could see the labia in the mud. You know, the mud was just very soft and soupy. And when she sat in it, when she got up, she left a perfect imprint. Absolutely perfect imprint. You could see the labia. You could see the anus. You could see the hair striations down the legs. And just absolutely beautiful. It cast gorgeously. And the other one was a young male. And you could see the scrotum. And you could see, the testicles and the anus and the hair follicle. It was just amazing. Probably the best physical evidence we've had in the last 30 years. And those still make shows too. They'll be at Ocean Shores in November as well. I guarantee you. They're well worth seeing. Well worth taking time. See, the speaker lineup at Ocean Shores is outstanding. Barb Shoop's going to be there. And I don't know if you've ever had Barb on your show, but if you haven't, you need to. Barb is she's a mentoree of mine, and she does it right. She runs a camp 5 times a year and limits it to 20 people and no more. That's 20 is actually too many. But every day they keep track of what they've seen, what they've done, and they'll get it all recorded. Then they'll reenact it. Sightings such like that, they'll reenact them to prove whether it was or wasn't. Well, that could have been a person. Yes, it could have. We were in the Blue Mountains a few years ago. Had a sighting, well, it could have been actually the person that saw it thought it was a man with his dog. We reenacted it, got where it was, and that his man had to be 8.5 feet tall in order to be seen. Well, that kind of left things up in the air for him. So they got looking for tracks, found a nice trackway of 2 Sasquatch. Okay. That's the type of work they do. Plus she videos everything. When you discuss something with Barb, she'll be telling you the story. And here's the video to go with it. Something else. Here's the video to go with it. She has 700 and some videos that she's done. And just put out another one this morning that was great. Absolutely wonderful. And so if you don't know Barb, know her. I guarantee you she does it right. Whatever is stated is verified, is tested in the scientific way. So what else do you need? Okay. But if you want proof,
go ahead. Sorry.
If you want proof, we have proof. You've heard the cry, where's your proof? Well, you have to understand some mathematics in order to understand it. But I gave you a little bit of it with the foot ratio. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that's not all. You've heard the night howls? The woo. We got the idea to break that down. Do an analysis on it and slowed it down. If you remember the Warhead Berry tapes, Sierra sounds, they had to slow those down by 50% before Scott started getting the pheromones, the syllabic sounds out of it before it started becoming language. We had to slow the night howls that way down. But you know what happened when we did? It looks just like the Sierra sounds. And then if you do an analysis of the Sierra, our voice alongside of it, the Sierra sounds looks just like ours in speaking. So what you're looking at there is a vocal print. What you're hearing in that howl is a long-range speech communication at a very high speed. So is there proof? Yeah, there's proof. Yeah. Just by the frequency range it uses. A 5-octave single note. Now there are people that can span 5 octaves, but not in one note. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, there's proof. But you have to understand, and you have to quit bad mouthing people that are trying to tell you that. You have to listen. You have to be predisposed to it with an open mind. There's people, I know you've heard on the Patterson-Gimlin film, that's fake, that's fake, right? Because my brother-in-law told me so. Well, your brother-in-law's an idiot, so what's your point? Look at it scientifically, and it all of a sudden becomes not a fake. Like I said, go to Bill Muns. Bill Muns reports on YouTube. Watch that 4-video set, and I guarantee you will not come away from that film thinking it's a fake. Okay? If you do, your mind's too set for me. Okay? And I don't mind if you have that attitude, that attitude, but if you have that opinion, I don't mind. I don't want to share it, but you can have it. Okay?
Absolutely. We got a question here out of Australia, I believe. And Viper would like to know if you have any information on the Yowies over in Australia.
Yeah, I do have some, and they're very much like what we have. It's very much like what we have. Just I can't find a major difference, actually. The Yowie, the Yeren in China, Almasty in Russia, basically the same critter, with some variation due to region. Same as the people that live there. There's some variation due to region. Same within the states, within North America. Those that live predominantly in the southern part are smaller in stature than those that live predominantly in the northern part. But then that's the same with mule deer. That's the same with white-tailed deer. Seems like every creature is, the warmer it is, the smaller they are physically. And the further north, the colder it gets, the larger they are. And it's the same there. Now, that said, understand, when they take a mate, they understand their population density. They understand what inbreeding is. Therefore, in order to not have that happen, Rajase, my young female, she was an 18-year-old female in British Columbia, where we did our 5-year study on their glyphs. She got old enough to take a mate. She went to Oklahoma and met her mate. Okay. Then he returned with her to her home clan in BC. Okay. They do that to preclude the chance of breeding too closely. And now they have twins and one other one afterwards. So, and he was a very tall young man. He was 8 feet tall when he was 18, 19 years old. Very slender. Now he's filling out, but he was very tall, very slender. And like I say, I got to see Rajase and the young ones when I was in Canada in this last month. So that made it all worthwhile. The interesting thing is she's the only one with blue eyes I've ever found. And she has a very distinct haircut. And again, I wish I could show pictures. But when she was in Oklahoma, Arla lives in Oklahoma. And when she was there, I was telling Arla about her. And Arla says, wait, I've seen her. Let me get my notes. She went and got her notebook, came back and started read it back to me verbatim. Fortunately, her mate was from a clan near Arla, and she had seen Rajase when she was there. So that made it all worthwhile. And you ever wonder why I love these people much?
You have mentioned like your 5-year study on the glyphs. I just ordered that book. I haven't got it yet, so I'm really looking forward to digging into that. But you
Brian
mentioned your
and Sue
name.
and I did that.
What's that?
Pardon me?
Oh, I talked over you. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Oh, I said Brian and Sue and I did that study.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
So I got the book coming. I haven't got a chance to read it yet, but can you kind of talk about, like, you're talking about their names, and I know that you had mentioned that you learned that from some of the stick structures or the glyphs, as you call them, as this. Can you talk about how you discovered that and some of that?
Well, the glyphs we got clued to by a fellow that lives there in BC, a very good friend of ours, both, that started showing us around this area. And he's full-blooded Lakota Sioux. And he's absolutely a great guy. And he showed us the first glyph that I'd ever seen that I could attribute to them. And he started explaining how they do that. He's kind of the curator of this area where we go up there. When you come to the end of that road, it's about 8 miles off the highway. When you enter that road, it's 120 miles to the next paved road. Okay, so that's the type of country we're in. And we started there in 2012. Yeah. And I got interested in these because glyphs, yeah, I know glyphs, runes, hieroglyphs. These are all ways of communicating, you know. And prior to us starting this, nobody in this field used the word glyph associated with anything they did. Okay, we coined that term for this use. And what we did is we started seeing these symbols. And it's an amazing thing. When you see one that's for you, you will understand it immediately. If you don't understand it, it's not for you. You're reading somebody else's mail. Okay? Now, that said, there are certain classes of glyphs that we all understand. Directional glyphs. You know, we all know what that means. Okay? And they use it too. Although you usually see it like that. And we think of the arrow going this way. Okay? Or going to an arrowhead, okay, coming to a point. No, they use the outside like that. That's how they point. First of all, their thumb is not the same as ours. See how our thumb comes down across our hand? Theirs is more like a fifth finger. It's still transposable, but not as easily as ours. Okay. And so it doesn't look quite the same when they do it, but they still do it. And they use these like I say, an asterisk is a power form. A circle has a meaning of its own. A triangle, you know, they're Trinity. Air, earth, water. Okay. These are all generic forms. They're a class form. And of these are signature glyphs. I started learning that they had glyphs to designate themselves because when I found something that Raj had left me, there was her signature glyph with it. Arishna, the clan leader, and Raja says, father, big guy, 12 feet tall, white. And he uses just a simple A, you know. So when I see that, I know who that is. Forshna uses a 4. Right, how do I do that backwards so it comes out right there? but it's just like a 4 written in sticks. And I've got, in this 5-year study that we did, I have 2,500 pictures of glyphs. Of those, less than 100 do I share. The reason is simple. That 100 I can authenticate. The other 2,400, I'm 90% sure or better, but I'm not 99% sure or better. Okay? With these 100, I have enough extra clues to know who the author was and what it means. Okay? Sometimes what it means. Now, again, understand, nobody's going to read those glyphs to you because unless it's for them, unless it's a generic, they're not going to know what it means. Just like hieroglyphs. Okay? Until we found the Rosetta Stone, we couldn't read them either, could we? Okay. Had to have a translator. Runes the same way. These are all, but look at our own alphabet. Isn't it glyphs? You know, yeah, that's a glyph. Yeah. So all they're doing is using sticks instead of a chalkboard to write on. Well, whiteboard now, I dated myself.
Now, when you're finding these, are they standing up or are they laying flat on the ground? Or are they like drawn or something?
Yeah, they could be either one.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to look for them. Usually, if they're for you, you'll find them. But if they aren't, again, you're reading somebody else's mail anyway. But some of them are just so beautiful. They have to be art. You saw the cover of the book, Woodworks. That is a glyph they made on a piece of bark, green grass, with a piece of brown bark, a green sword fern, and a fish glyph in it. It's art. I don't care what you say. That is art. And I have a whole sheaf of those done just for that. Now that one has meaning also. Another thing you look for with their structures and their glyphs in my area is sword ferns. And they're picked. And I don't know if you know sword ferns, but they're a single stem fern. Okay. That stem is about like trying to pick a lamp cord. Yeah, it'll bend, but it's not going to break. They pick them. We have to cut them. I've done it to 20 people at least. Just go ahead and pick one of those for me, would you? And they go, and they could go to pull out a knife. I said, no, pick it. Don't cut it. I can cut it. You can't pick it. I said, point, And here's 20 of them laying in this structure, all picked. How do they get there?
We have a question here for you. It says, what do you think the meaning of the different eye colors of Sasquatch is? Some researchers claim that they could be warnings of friendly or etc.
Oh, I think they're mood indicators. I'm not big on warning. You treat any Sasquatch with respect, and you're going to be respected. Again, like I say, you might be asked to leave for now, but can they get angry? Yes, they can. Will they harm you? No, not ever. Not ever. Not unless you're shooting at them. Take every instance that's ever happened. Ape Canyon. What was happening? They were shooting at him. Boggy Canyon, Boggy whatever it was.
Boggy
they were
Creek.
shooting at him. Yeah, Boggy Creek. Hona Massacre. They were shooting at him. Yeah, I'd get pissed too. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
Be respectful. If nothing else in the world, learn respect. When I first met my teacher, the first thing he told me, I do not understand human beings. You have no respect for where you live. You destroy the planet you live on. You have no respect for one another. You destroy one another. And worst of all, you have no respect even for yourselves. And he's right. Absolutely right. Respect is so rare in this world, especially among the younger generations. I cringe when I see what's going on in this world. Absolutely cringe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have you've had so many stories and so many encounters? We're coming up on the end of the hour here, but before you go, I want to know, like, what advice do you have? You've seen so many of these creatures and had so many amazing in-person encounters. What can you tell the people that want to go out and interact with these creatures, and so many people are trying and getting no luck? What is everyone doing wrong?
Overcome your fear. They cannot work through fear. Overcome your fear. Learn respect in all you do. Remember, you're in their home. Treat it such. And be a friend. Offer to help. Talk to them. If you're standing at a bus station and there are 10 people standing there and nobody says anything, what gets said? One person starts talking, all of a sudden there's a conversation going. Talk to them. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel self-centered. My research method, I take my folding chair, I go out and I find nice, comfortable spot, preferably next to some water. Open my chair, park my bottom in it, open my Kindle, reach in my ice chest, grab a Diet Pepsi and a fried chicken hip, start eating my chicken hip, read my Kindle, and wait for them to come see me. They will. And I say, hi, guys, I'm here. I'd sure like to meet you today. Come on out and let's have a talk. And eventually something will be peeking around a tree at me. They, first of all, wonder why I'm doing that, I suppose. But it works. You have to be their friend. Don't try to trick them. They've seen every trick in the world. You know, put up game. The biggest Sasquatch repellent in the world is a game camera. You know, ask Olympic Project. They got hundreds of them sitting in boxes. Okay. They found out as soon as they put them up, activity quit. Went somewhere else. They're not stupid. They're more intelligent than we are. They don't have anything to do with us. That proves that. You know? I do want to thank you for having me on here. Give me a time to just. I'm sorry if I insulted anybody. I didn't mean to. Well, maybe I did, but that's all right. I'm old. I can get away with it. I turned 80 years old on the 1st of July. Okay. Wow. So I've kind of had to go into semi-retired mode, but I'm still available for chat anytime. And there's nothing I like better than a good Sasquatch conversation. There's a joke that I have. This guy sitting in a party, all sad face and head hanging down, says, "What I look like at a party when nobody wants to talk Sasquatch." Okay. That's me. I live for these guys. 65 years I've been researching them. And it has been a fantastic life.
Absolutely, man. You are such an amazing person. I thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been absolutely wonderful. Fastest hour on earth.
every week it is. Yep.
Yeah.
I have a comment here I was saving for you from Judy Wheeler. She says, Todd Neese just did an interview on his 50 to 60 years as well. So happy to hear our OGs, original guys, coming out forward and speaking up. Thank you, Thom Cantrall.
Thank you very much. I know Todd very well. He's a good guy.
Awesome. A lot of comments, a lot of love for you in the comments as well. Just kind of thank you and all kinds of stuff over here. So again, man, it's such an honor to have you on, and I definitely will reach out and have you back, because there's so much that you've done and seen that, you know, it's a
anytime. If we want to do specifics, we can do that. For my website, it's just myname.com. I started out with my first book, ghostofrubyridge.com, but by the time I'd written 10 books, the name of this thing was so long I couldn't fit in anymore. Just went to this.
Awesome. Definitely, man. For anybody looking, also the link to your website is in the show notes. So if you guys need to missed it or need spelling or anything like that, it's in the show notes. You can click on that in the comments section. And I know you said you had a couple other events coming up. Is there anything else? You have a new book coming in Thanksgiving, I believe.
No, not this year. Not this year.
Okay.
I just didn't get that chance. I'm not real good at keeping my website up to date. You may have noticed.
I was going to say.
That was last year when that book came out.
Okay.
But that's
so last
called the proof.
Doing a new book.
If you want the proof, if you want to be able to tell your brother-in-law Ned that there is proof, get that book and read it. It's called The Sasquatch, The Proof. And that's just out last year. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on today. I look forward to our next chat, man. Take care.
Super. You guys be good now.
All right, guys, that is our show. I got to see who we got coming up next week. It is Scott Violette is going to be on next week's show. So that is coming up. We mentioned it earlier today in the show, the Bigfoot, A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot and the Paranormal. The director of that will be on November 6th. So before we go, I wanted to show you the promo video for that. So let's check that out.
There's things that I won't tell you, that I can't tell you. All I can tell you right now is, and I'll look you right in the eye, I'll tell you, whatever goes on in these woods, don't take it for what you can see. Because there's a lot more to what you can't see. Bigfoot, shapeshifted, folks.
It's not just that Sasquatch exists, it's that Sasquatch can do this and this and this.
We had the hair tested by a vet. It came back as an unknown hair type. Then I turned to Daryl and I said, listen, it could get really weird now.
It was able to do things that you couldn't even imagine.
What are the chances of us seeing something like that? 1 billion to 1? 2 billion to 1? Why us?
I think if you can base some of this in science, it allows us to have a grasp of what's going on. Coherent matter can work in ways that ordinary matter can't because it's based on quantum principles. So it can easily go into cloaked mode.
And the words repeated, why are you carrying a gun? And the second time it went through my head, I knew they're talking to me.
It's not about the one encounter. It's about the thousands of encounters, exact same type of characteristics that tell the story. You cannot deny it. And that's why you have to acknowledge the paranormal aspect.
What did I just see here? Oh my goodness.
I love Eric Bard at the end there. So that go check that out, guys, because we are going to have Brett on here on November 6th, and he is going to be here answering questions and talking all about that. So guys, go check that out. And thanks again to Thom, our guest today. Next week, Scott Violette. And until then, I'll see you on the edge.